Alright, hello and welcome to Mass Hysteria. I'm a little bit under the weather today, a little bit unprepared, so you're going to get some unpremeditated radio tonight. We're going to get things started here. It's going to take a minute, so we can just talk about, let's see, today is December 21st, 2012. Which means that it is the winter solstice. It also means that it is a new Bach tune. As far as I'm concerned, it's either today or tomorrow. I think it's today. Because they start counting at 0. So, like if we were using the decimal system, it'd be 0 through 9. And then 0. 0 is the start of the next one. There's 10 in each one. I use a mix of vigesimal, which is base 20, like 0 through 20 numbering, or 0 through 19 numbering, which means there's 20 digits in each one. It's 0 through 19 instead of 0 through 9. And occasionally mix in a little bit of something else to help mesh the calendars better. It's one of the digits in the long count, at least as a base 18 count. Those are the Weenals. It's only 18 Weenals in a next one up. I forget what it's called, but I'm going to just plug something in here. Couple things, actually. Let's see, we need input. So today is 13.0.0.0.0. And I'd say that puts us squarely in the 14th Bach tune, or the first in a cycle of 13, depending on how you or we look at it. It drives me kind of nuts because I sort of research this in my spare time occasionally, and it's really hard to figure out, not only because of all the New Age nonsense that's mixed in with it, but because no one ever seems to just ask the Maya, like, hey, how does your calendar work? The conquistadors came and they destroyed most of their culture and burned most of their historical documents, and now no one seems to just go and ask them. Looking at the monuments and looking at things, it's like, I'm pretty sure there's someone who still knows something about this. But to no avail. So, the entire inside of my connector has fallen out. It fell out. It's like, whoa, dude. So we're going to get a new connector. Mono price 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch adapters. Not so hot on those. DC adapter power. Laptop activated. Gold plated piece of shit put into bag. What a garbage adapter. Yeah, so we're on our way here. It's also, the solstice, so it's only getting lighter from here on out. That's a good thing. It'll probably also be getting colder, but, that happens. So, I think that's pretty cool. We still have this world, and I wish that we would all make the best of it and enjoy our time on it until it's gone, because it doesn't last forever. So, let's see. We're going to make a new show. Save project as 2012-12-14 is last week's. Today's 21. And amazingly enough, not only does the new Bach tune start today, but my radio show is today. Coincidence? I didn't plan it on purpose, but hey, it works out kind of cool. I was trying to select everything and delete it. Delete it. I want you gone. Out of my timeline. We are going to get started with some music from this band that I don't know how to pronounce their name. It's HTRSPLTN, and this is from the Dystopiac Net label. Start off with Hype and Sick to get it going. One would think we could start out with Hype and Sick to get it going, but I forgot to do something or other here. So we can't yet till we figure out what's going on. So how's everybody doing tonight? Go ahead and call in. I know there are literally trillions of people listening to this. It's the most popular show in the universe. No, it's really not. Adderall, FA 101, that's good, that's good. We got our outputs, that's good. Get our outputs there. Get our outputs there. Box 1. So why are we not getting our outputs on this thing? I don't get it. Oh, why does this always have to happen sometimes? And why are all my things muted? I think that would explain it. Do you guys think so? I think so. Let's see. Oh! HTRSPLTN, Hype and Sick. And up next, the same band with the song I Want You to Get Mad. Mad. Next up, we've got Oorworm in the same group, and I'm going to read a little excerpt here from Robertson Jeffers called The Answer. Then what is the answer? Not to be deluded by dreams. To know that great civilizations have broken down into violence, and their tyrants come many times before. When open violence appears, to avoid it with honor or choose the least ugly faction, these evils are essential. To keep one's own integrity, be merciful and uncorrupted, and not wish for evil and not be duped by dreams of universal justice or happiness. These dreams will not be fulfilled. To know this, and know that however ugly the parts appear, the whole remains beautiful. A severed hand is an ugly thing, and man is severed from the earth and stars in his history. For contemplation or in fact, often appears atrociously ugly. Integrity is wholeness. The greatest beauty is organic wholeness. The wholeness of life and things, the divine beauty of the universe. Love that, not man. Apart from that, or else you will share man's pitiful confusions, or drown in despair when his day is darkened. Robinson Jeffers, The Answer. Be doing some more readings tonight. This is from a manifesto from the Dark Mountain Project. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty sure I will be able to use it for the rest of the night for readings because it is also pretty long. Next up is Motion. HTRSBLTN mix. Progress is founded on the myth of nature. The first tells us that we are destined for greatness. The second tells us that greatness is cost-free. Each is intimately bound up with the other. Both tell us that we are apart from the world, that we began grunting in the primeval swamps as a humble part of something called nature, which we have now triumphantly subdued. The very fact that we have a word for nature is evidence that we do not regard ourselves as part of it. Indeed, our separation from it is a myth integral to the triumph of our civilization. We are, we tell ourselves, the only species ever to have attacked nature and won. In this, our unique glory is contained. Outside the citadels of self-congratulation, lone voices have cried out against this infantile version of the human story for centuries. But it is only in the last few decades that its inaccuracy has become laughably apparent. We are the first generations to grow up surrounded by evidence that our attempt to separate ourselves from nature has been a grim failure, proof not of our genius but our hubris. The attempt to sever the hand from the body has endangered the progress, quote unquote, we hold so dear, and it has endangered much of nature, too. The resulting upheaval underlies the crisis we now face. We imagined ourselves isolated from the source of our existence. The fallout from this imaginative error is all around us. A quarter of the world's mammals are threatened with imminent extinction. An acre and a half of rainforest is felled every second. 75% of the world's fish stocks are on the verge of collapse. Humanity consumes 25% more of the world's natural products than the Earth can replace, a figure predicted to rise to 80% by mid-century. Even though the deadening lens of statistics, we can glimpse the violence to which our myths have driven us. And over it all looms runaway climate change. Climate change, which threatens to render all human projects irrelevant, which presents us with detailed evidence of our lack of understanding of the world we inhabit, while at the same time demonstrating that we are still entirely reliant upon it. Climate change, which highlights in painful color the head-on crash between civilization and nature, which makes plain, more effectively than any carefully construed argument or optimistically defiant protest, how the machine's need for permanent growth will require us to destroy ourselves in its name. Climate change, which brings home at last our ultimate powerlessness. These are the facts, or some of them. Yet facts never tell the whole story. Facts, Conrad wrote in Lord Jim, as if facts could prove anything. The facts of environmental crisis we hear so much about often conceal as much as they expose. We hear daily about the impacts of our activities on the environment, like nature. This is an expression which distances us from the reality of our situation. And we're going to hear from Clarence Simpson with Spaceship.
We're taking this to another level, baby. I got it going on.
Daily we hear, too, of the many solutions to these problems. Solutions which usually involve the necessity of urgent political agreement and a judicious application of human technological genius. Things may be changing, runs the narrative, but there's nothing we cannot deal with here, folks. We perhaps need to move faster, more urgently. Certainly we need to accelerate the pace of research and development. We accept that we must become more sustainable. But everything will be fine. There will still be growth. There will still be progress. These things will continue because they have to continue, so they cannot do anything but continue. There's nothing to see here. Everything will be fine.
Got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I gonna take it. Tell me you don't come in. Got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship.
We got a spaceship for free.
Spaceship.
And look what we're doing.
Ooh, I gonna take it. Tell me you don't come in.
I got a room for you.
Pretty awesome spaceship if you ask me.
Space for you.
Tell me if you're coming with
She
me.
calm, she cool, she sexy, she's that. Woo, you get me? Trying to take you back home if you let me. Sorry though, outside of the Bentley. She smirked, you're cute, that's funny. I laughed, she giggled, that's money. She said, what's your name? I said, honey, anything you want it to be. Is you coming?
Got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I got my spaceship. I built my spaceship. Ooh, I gonna take it. it up all night. On the bright side, we'll take it up all night. Can't you feel it? On the bright side, we'll take it up all night. Can't you feel it? Tell me if you're coming, 'cause I got space for you. Oh yeah, I got space for you. Tell me if you're coming with it. Can't you feel it? Tell me if you're coming, 'cause I got space for you. Oh yeah, I got space for you. Tell me if you're coming with it.
And up next we have Wisp with a song whose title I can't see right now. But pretty soon I'll see it. It's a letter in the mail. I wonder what it says. We do not believe that everything will be fine. We're not even sure we're based on current definitions of progress and improvement, but we want it to be. Of all humanity's delusions of difference, of its separation from and superiority to the living world which surrounds it, one distinction holds up better than most. We may well be the first species capable of effectively eliminating life on Earth. This is a hypothesis we seem intent on putting to the test. We're already responsible for denuding the world of much of its richness, magnificence, beauty, color, and magic. We show no sign of slowing down. For a very long time, we imagined that nature was something that happened elsewhere. The damage we did to it might be regrettable, but needed to be weighed against the benefits, here and now. And in the worst case scenario, there would always be some kind of plan B. Plan B. And we would turn down our effects, which are peaking way too highly right now. I wondered why it sounded like that. Gotta turn down that send, turn it down, down, down like that, my friend. You've got to turn down that send, you've got to get it down like that, my friend. Perhaps we would make for the moon, where we could survive in lunar colonies under giant bubbles as we planned our expansion across the galaxy. But there is no plan B, and the bubble, it turns out, is where we have been living all the while. The bubble is that delusion of isolation under which we have labored for so long. The bubble has cut us off from life on the only planet we have, or are ever likely to have. The bubble is civilization. Consider the structures on which that bubble has been built. Its foundations are geological. Coal, oil, gas, millions upon millions of years of ancient sunlight dragged from the depths of the planet and burned with abandon. On this base, the structure stands. Move upwards and you pass through a jumble of supporting horrors. Battery chicken sheds, industrial abattoirs, burning forests, beam-trawled ocean floors, dynamited reefs, hollowed-out mountains, and wasted soil. And finally, on top of all these unseen layers, you reach the well-tended liquid surface where you and I stand, unaware or uninterested in what goes on beneath us. Demanding that the authorities keep us in the manner to which we have been accustomed, occasionally feeling twinges of guilt that lead us to buy organic chickens or locally produced lettuces, yet for the most part glutted, but not sated, on the fruits of the horrors on which our lifestyles depend. And this is Wisp with me. Me.
I tried to clicky, but you know work.
We are the first generations, born into a new and unprecedented age. The age of ecocide. To name it thus is not to presume the outcome, but simply to describe a process which is underway. The ground, sea, the air, the elemental backdrops to our existence. All these our economics has taken for granted, to be used as a bottomless tip, endlessly able to dilute and disperse the tailings of our extraction, production, and consumption. The sheer scale of the sky or the weight of a swollen river makes it hard to imagine that creatures as flimsy and you as I could do that much damage. Philip Larkin gave voice to this attitude, and the creeping, worrying end of it, in his poem, Going. And now Wisp with Laugh, L-A-F-F. I don't know if that's an alternate spelling in the OED, but I'm running low on disk space. Why? I don't understand it. Where's my disk space going? I just cleaned up a bunch of disks. Oh, I need to empty the recycle bin. I've got disk space. I also have some overactive effects going on. A little bit. Little bit less, little bit less, or more, less or more. There we go. Let's put it right at 0 since we are at 13.0.0.0.0 today. That's 4 aha. 4 is the day number, and aha is the glyph of the day in the Tzolk'in. And going. Things are tougher than we are, just as Earth will always respond. However we mess it about. Chuck filth in the sea if you must. The tides will be clean beyond. But what do I feel now? Doubt? Nearly 40 years on from Larkin's words, doubt is what all of us seem to feel, all of the time. Too much filth has been chucked into the sea and into the soil and into the atmosphere to make any other feeling sensible. The doubt and the facts have paved the way for a worldwide movement of environmental politics, which aimed, at least in its early raw form, to challenge the myths of development and progress head-on. But time has not been kind to the Greens. Today's environmentalists are more likely to be found at corporate conferences, hymning the virtues of sustainability and ethical consumption, than doing anything as naive as questioning the intrinsic values of civilization. Capitalism has absorbed the Greens, as it absorbs so many challenges to its ascendancy. A radical challenge to the human machine has been transformed into yet another opportunity for shopping. Denial is a hot word, heavy with connotations. When it's used to brand the remaining rump of climate change skeptics, they object noisily to the association with those who would rewrite the history of the Holocaust. Yet the focus on this dwindling group may serve as a distraction from a far larger form of denial, in its psychoanalytic sense. Freud wrote of the inability of people to hear things which should not fit with the way they saw themselves in the world. We put ourselves through all kinds of inner contortions, rather than look plainly at those things which challenge our fundamental understanding of the world. Today, humanity is up to its neck in denial about what it has built and what it has become and what it is in for. Ecological and economic collapse unfold before us, and if we acknowledge them at all, we act as if this were a temporary problem, a technical glitch. Centuries of hubris block our ears like wax plugs. We cannot hear the message which reality is screaming at us. For all our doubts and discontents, we are still wired to an idea of history which the future will be an upgraded version of the present. The assumption remains that things must continue in their current direction. The sense of crisis only smudges the meaning of that must. Wisp. Shep, shape, sheep. No longer must a natural inevitability. No longer a natural inevitability. It becomes an urgent necessity. We must find a way to go on having supermarkets and superhighways. We cannot contemplate the alternative. It's not on the table. That part's not in there. I'm just talking now, but I'm reminded of the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff. Which is a fucking joke. Watching everybody debate it, it's all just a big joke. But there's no punchline, there's just a whole lot of people in a whole lot of unnecessary pain and suffering to keep a few motherfuckers rich. And to keep us on the path we've always been on. And always need to be on. Keep us fighting wars. Because everybody loves wars.
Welcome to this week's edition
What
of
is
Rust Belt
that?
Radio, the Pittsburgh
Oh, it's Rust Belt Radio. They're going to be doing a cameo on our show tonight, by which I mean I'm going to be playing part of a pre-recorded segment from one of their shows, because apparently someone in Philadelphia is converting an ambulance to run on waste vegetable oil, and I'm also doing that, and kind of wanted to listen to it, so I'm probably just going to listen to it while I do my radio show.
And archived at radio.ndpgh.org. This week's show falls during WRCT's random schedule as a radio station takes a holiday. We're using this opportunity to present our listeners with some highlights from the spring season of Rust Belt Radio that you may have missed. On today's show, we will hear from Appalachian activists fighting mountaintop removals, Pennsylvanians protesting the war and marching for Mumia Abu Jamal, Pittsburghers converting an ambulance to run on vegetable oil, and harm reduction activists speaking about the organization Provention.
On Thursday, March 31st, groups and individuals from throughout Appalachia gathered at the West Virginia Capitol building in Charleston for the Mountain Justice Summer kickoff. Mountain Justice Summer is a campaign to bring regional, national, and international attention to the human rights abuses and environmental devastation caused by mountaintop removal mining. The rally included speakers and musicians from around the Appalachia. The Mountain Justice Summer Rally followed the Friends of Coal annual rally in support of the coal industry. Here are a few speakers and musicians from throughout the day.
In Pennsylvania, we don't have mountaintop removal, but we have plenty of coal issues of our own. We have longwall mining, which is devastating the southwestern portion of the state. It's like an earthquake. It's destroying our streams. It's destroying our communities through subsidence. And we have strip mining. We don't have mountains, but we've got hills, and they're taking those. So we're here to support Mountain Justice Summer because communities throughout Appalachia have been fighting coal for decades, fighting our individual fights in our individual states, and the regulatory agencies, the state agencies, are not doing the job in any of the states that are facing coal devastation. So we are here in solidarity. We need a movement throughout Appalachia. We all need to stand together. We need national attention, national solidarity, and that is why we're here today. We're organizing in Pittsburgh. There's going to be a national coal conference in June 7th through 9th, and we invite people to come up there and express your outrage to the companies directly at the Pittsburgh Convention Center. We're going to have an action going on, and we invite everyone to come up, and we'll be down here. Pennsylvanians will be in solidarity.
And up next, Wisp with turquoise tinged pennies. Pennies. Whoa. I just did something to my interface here. Ooh, that ain't going back. It's miniaturized. I totally toggled something here. Oh, I can't read my track names now. Alright, so up next is, after this, is going to be Wisp with Library Gray. And then after that, it's going to be... I heard that somewhere. After that, it's going to be Wisp with Ball and Palms. Probably part of... Oh my god. So all these tracks got put on here twice as we go. How about after that? Newell versus Clarion, Bionic Hash Mash Mix. That sounds fun, doesn't it? We find ourselves, all of us together, poised, trembling on the edge of a chance so massive that we have no way of gauging it. None of us knows where to look, but all of us know not to look down. Secretly, we all think we're doomed. Even the politicians think this, even the environmentalists. Some of us deal with it by going shopping. Some of us deal with it by hoping it is true. Some give up in despair. Some work frantically to try and fend off the coming storm. But our question is, what would happen if we looked down? Would it be as bad as we imagine? What might we see? Could it even be good for us? We believe it's time to look down. Uncivilization. Without mystery, without curiosity, and without the form imposed by a partial answer, there can be no stories, only confessions, communiques, memories, and fragments of autobiographical fantasy for which the moment pass as novels. From John Berger, A Story for Aesop, from Keeping at Rendezvous. If we are indeed teetering on the edge of a massive change in how we live, in how human society itself is constructed, and in how we relate to the rest of the world, then we were led to this point by the stories we have told ourselves. Above all, by the story of civilization. This story has many variants, religious and secular, scientific, economic, and mystic, but all tell of humanity's original transcendence of its animal beginnings, our growing mastery over a nature to which we no longer belong, and the glorious future of plenty and prosperity which will follow when this mastery is complete. It is a story of human centrality, of a species destined to be lord of all it surveys, unconfined by the limits that apply to other lesser creatures. What makes this story so dangerous is that for the most part, we have forgotten that it is a story. It has been told so many times by those who see themselves as rationalists, even scientists, heirs to Enlightenment's legacy, a legacy which includes the denial of the role of stories in making up the world. And humans have always lived by stories. And those with the skill in telling them have been treated with respect and, often, a certain wariness. Beyond the limits of reason, reality remains mysterious, as incapable of being approached directly as a hunter's quarry. With stories, with art, with symbols and layers of meaning, we stalk these elusive aspects of reality that go undreamed of in our philosophy. The storyteller weaves the mysterious into the fabric of life, lacing it with the cosmic, the tragic, the obscene, making safe paths through dangerous territory. Yet as the myth of civilization deepened its grips on our thinking, borrowing the guise of science and reason, we began to deny the role of stories, to dismiss their power as something primitive, childish, outgrown. The old tales by which generations had made sense of life's subtleties and strangeness were bowdlerized and packed off to the nursery. Religion, that bag of myths and mysteries, birthplace of the theater, was straightened out into a framework of universal laws and moral account-keeping. The dream visions of the Middle Ages became the nonsense stories of the Victorian childhood. In the age of novel, stories were no longer the way to approach the deep truths of the world, so much as a way to pass time on a train journey. It's hard today to imagine that the word of a poet was once feared by a king. Yet for all of this, our world is still shaped by stories. Through television, film, novels, and video games, we may be more thoroughly bombarded with narrative material than any people that have ever lived. What is peculiar, however, is the carelessness with which these stories are channeled at us. As entertainment, a distraction from daily life, something to hold our attention to the other side of the ad break. There's little sense that these things make up the equipment by which we navigate reality. On the other hand, there are the serious stories, told by economists, politicians, geneticists, and corporate leaders. These are not presented as stories at all, but as direct accounts of how the world is. Choose between competing versions, then fight with those who choose differently. The ensuing conflicts play out on early morning radio, in afternoon debates, and late night television pundit wars. And yet, for all the noise, what is striking is how much the opposing sides agree on. All their stories are only variants of the larger story of human centrality, of our ever-expanding control over nature, our right to perpetual economic growth, and our ability to transcend all limits. So we find ourselves, our ways of telling unbalanced, trapped inside a runaway narrative, headed for the worst kind of encounter with reality. In such a moment, writers, artists, poets, and storytellers of all kinds have a critical role to play. Creativity remains the most uncontrollable of human forces. Without it, the project of civilization is inconceivable. Yet no part of life remains so untamed and undomesticated. Words and images can change minds, hearts, even the course of history. Their makers shape the stories people carry through their lives, unearth old ones and breathe them back to life, add new twists, point to unexpected endings. It is time to pick up the threads and make the stories new, as they must always be made new, starting from where we are. Mainstream art in the West has always been about shock, about busting taboos, about getting noticed. This has gone on for so long that it has become common to assert that in these ironic, exhausted, post-everything times, there are no taboos left to bust. But there is one. The last taboo is the myth of civilization. It is built upon the stories we have constructed about our genius, our indestructibility, our manifest destiny as a chosen species. It is where our vision and our self-belief intertwine with our reckless refusal to face the reality of our position on this earth. It has led the human race to achieve what it has achieved, and has led the planet into the age of ecocide. The two are intimately linked. We believe they must be decoupled if anything is to remain. We believe that artists, which to us is the most welcoming of words, taking under its wing writers of all kinds, painters, musicians, sculptors, poets, designers, creators, makers of things, dreamers of dreams, have a responsibility to begin the process of decoupling. We believe that, in the age of ecocide, the last taboo must be broken, and that only artists can do it. Ecocide demands a response. The response is too important to be left to politicians, economists, conceptual thinkers, number crunchers, too all-pervasive to be left to activists or campaigners. Artists are needed. So far, though, the artistic response has been muted. In between traditional nature poetry and agitprop, what is there? Where are the poems that have adjusted their scope to the scale of this challenge? Where are the novels that probe beyond the country house or the city center? What new form of writing has emerged to challenge civilization itself? What gallery mounts an exhibition equal to this challenge? Which musician has discovered the secret chord? If the answers to these questions have been scarce up to now, it is perhaps both because the depth of collective denial is so great, and because the challenge is so very daunting. We are daunted by it ourselves, but we believe it needs to be risen to. We believe that art must look over the edge, face the world that is coming with a steady eye, and rise to the challenge of ecocide with a challenge of its own. An artistic response to the crumbling of the empires of the mind. This response we call uncivilized art, and we are interested in one branch of it in particular: uncivilized writing. Uncivilized writing is writing which attempts to stand outside the human bubble and see us as we are. Highly evolved apes with an array of talents and abilities which we are unleashing without sufficient thought, control, compassion, or intelligence. Apes who have constructed a sophisticated myth of their own importance with which to sustain their civilizing project. Apes whose project has been to tame, to control, to subdue, or to destroy. To civilize the forests, the deserts, the wild lands, and the seas. To impose bonds in the minds of their own in order that they might feel nothing when they exploit or destroy their fellow creatures. Against the civilizing project, which has become the progenitor of ecocide, uncivilized writing offers not a non-human perspective. We remain human and even now are not quite ashamed, but a perspective which sees us as one strand of a web, rather than as the first palanquin in a glorious procession. It offers an unblinking look at the forces among which we find ourselves. It sets out to paint a picture of Homo sapiens, which, a being from another world, or better, a being from our own, a blue whale, an albatross, a mountain hare, might recognize as something approaching a truth. It sets out to tug our attention away from ourselves and turn it outwards, to uncenter our minds. It is writing, in short, which puts civilization and us into perspective. Writing that comes not, as most writing still does, from the self-absorbed and self-congratulatory metropolitan centers of civilization, but from somewhere on its wilder fringes, somewhere woody and weedy and largely avoided, from where insistent, uncomfortable truths about ourselves drift in. Truths which we're not keen on hearing. Writing which unflinchingly stares us down, however uncomfortable this may prove. And that's all we have for tonight. Don't forget to love everything.